Have you ever noticed that you have trouble when your kid is having a tantrum and you kind of end up usually yelling at them and then feeling bad and you're like, what else am I supposed to do? I'm trying everything I know and it's not working, right? Well, I've got a solution that I have learned over the years and I've had such success with it and I want to share it with you. And I really think it can help you literally change what you do tomorrow with your child. This Dr. Ablon, who I brought him on the podcast. He's on one of the episodes. He's the one I learned this approach from. And he shares that his research has shown that challenging kids really lack a skill and not the will to behave. Because a lot of times you hear people say like, well, that kid really just doesn't want to. And his whole theory and idea is that kids do well if they can. And I really believe that. And I just now believe that to my core, that actually kids do want to do well. And if they're not, then it's up to us to figure out like what the problem is. And he teaches us that it's either a skill they need to be taught or a problem to be solved. So it's a very different way of thinking. And that's a very difficult mindset shift to have to change for people because we just think, oh, they're doing it on purpose, right? How many times do we hear people say that? And it's really, they actually really want to do well. They really do. Like, it's just incredible to think and know that. And just, curious why people were coming, because I know some people who listen to my podcast are grandparents and some, are parents, some are dads. Like, it's pretty cool. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, people are finding what benefits them out of it. I mean, because I hear from parents, like, I'm struggling with, my, you name it, year-old kid. Another parent was saying like, I have 5 kids, but when they struggle in school, I don't have the skill set and they really feel at a loss. Another parent was like, I can't help my kids and it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
My child needs help and I don't know how to help them. Like, so through the years, I've seen kids struggle and I've heard parents who really kind of have difficulty navigating that whole area. I even talked to a parent a week ago who was like, my daughter is mean to her younger sister. Like, what's going on? She's just at a loss. And I actually invited her to this webinar because I'm like, I think I have something that could help you just as you step into like trying to help, because sometimes you do everything you can and you're like, crap, now what do? I've exhausted everything I know. And like, I still have the issue or the concern or the problem. Right. So when at first, when I taught, however many years ago, I was a teacher, I had kids who like shut down in class and I couldn't like connect with them. I couldn't figure out like what made them tick. Why couldn't I like get them out of that funk? I never really got to the root of the problem. And it just was kind of frustrating. Like, I felt like I was just inapt in really helping them. And I wished I could have known what it was to help them, And so then in Red Clay, I was a instructional support team facilitator in 2 elementary schools. So it was pretty much like a child study team, like our IST, PST problem solving team, where the teachers would just bring referrals of kids struggling behaviorally or academically, where they felt like they were doing everything they could and it still wasn't helping. So now what do we do? And we would create interventions and track it to see if the supports helped them. And it kind of helped to a degree, but we always felt like I just never felt like it really, really got to the root of the issue behind it all until this Dr. Ablon came and spoke to 6 school districts in Delaware, like 12 years ago. And he taught us this approach. And I was just fascinated and intrigued. And it just synced with like what I believe. And because it's a positive behavior approach to discipline, and we're so used to a traditional punitive approach. And so, then when I had a kid in 1st grade, when I was assistant principal, who was like, couldn't sit down, couldn't focus, couldn't do his work, like just could not do this thing we called school. Right. And I would tell him, I would call his mom and he would almost climb out my window. Like I didn't know what was going on with him. Right. Well, I started using some of these strategies and this approach that I'm going to talk about. And I was able to get him to a point to talk about what was really happening in the classroom. And then when he would get in trouble, I would have him draw a picture of what like the expected behavior was in class. And so he and I wrote this book together. So he drew the pictures and I wrote it. And it's called 1st Grade Rules, because there's so many rules in 1st grade. And the first page was 1st grade might be more difficult than kindergarten. Like for this kid, it was really hard for him. And it was just so cool to slowly see some successes with this, where I, like you said, it's like, I didn't have that toolkit or that toolbox to like really get me somewhere. And then this picture is really precious. Over a year ago, one of these kids came, the teacher sent him to the office. He was crying because I think he missed out on an award the class got because he probably didn't do his behavior well or whatever. And he was just in pieces. Well, then the other kid was like, let's go do some breathing breaths, because we've taught them this with our mindfulness lessons, right? And I was like, okay, to the other kid, like, why don't we just take a minute and like breathe together? Do you want to breathe together, with me? And he's like, no. And for some random idea, I just thought, okay, well, I have a video, so let's watch the video. And he sat down and he watched the video of that I would create these mindfulness lessons, and he did the breathing with it. And then he calmed down, and the other kid was, look, this is like really great. So to me, the collaborative problem solving approach and the mindfulness practices that we've done with kids have been like this like beautiful dual kind of support that I've seen really help kids in incredible ways. So today we were going to learn what to do in the moment the next time your child has a meltdown or acts unexpectedly. I like how someone introduced that to me a while ago, where it's like, it's an expected behavior or an unexpected behavior. And that just like connects with me, because sometimes we're like, that kid, acted in, a horrible way, or we don't really know how to describe it. So with kids, it's like easy to say to them, well, that was unexpected. And then they're just like, oh, well, I guess that wasn't really kind of what I was supposed to be doing. And then my number one secret to get your child to talk when they shut down, display an unexpected behavior, et cetera, how to find out from your child what's really going on behind their behavior, because it was just incredible to actually get to the root of why kids were doing what they were doing. And I was never able to get that far with anything I'd ever known to address the behavior before. And how to teach your child to problem solve, which is such a huge skill that we need them to know for life. Like, that is one of the most powerful things that's a takeaway from this process, because through it, they have to actually practice solving the problem. And then over time, the idea is that they really learn how to solve problems on their own, which is what we want them to get competent to do in life. So I just wanted to take a minute and just kind of imagine like your kids thriving at school, socially and academically. I mean, imagine waking up, no matter what happened the day before with your kid, as difficult or challenging as it was, you wake up and you're able to actually be happy. Imagine your kid opening up to you when they're having a difficult time. Like, that would be huge. Imagine when your kid is struggling and you're able to connect with them and help them. I mean, this whole process, I'm so excited about it, because I feel like it can empower parents or moms with their kids, where sometimes we feel like, well, I don't know, maybe my kid's like needs a therapist or something, or these days it's so common that, either they get a diagnosis or they have a pill, or we just kind of use that so loosely, I feel. And really there's some things we could teach kids to really give them skills they're going to need for life, and help you as a parent feel like you could actually really help them. And I just love how I think of sitting in an audience one day, right? And your child gets up to speak in front of all these people, and they say, when I was a kid, I struggled with, going to school and situations, but my mom helped me, and I'm here to tell you the story. Like that, how powerful that could be. And I believe it can be. And so that's why, obviously, I'm just kind of like super passionate about this whole topic. So what's one thing your child struggled with over the past week, month, or year? Just throw out something, anything, doesn't matter, small, big, anything. A couple of things that I just made a list of were, you want happy, healthy kids, and then just something always seems to get in the way. And things like they shut down when you try to talk to them, difficulty calming down after something doesn't go their way, anxiety, between ages, so in adolescence right now, in every 4 to 5 adolescents, at least one of them is diagnosed with a mental health disorder nowadays. And that number one disorder is anxiety. It's so sad. I mean, that just like breaks my heart. Disruptive behaviors at school, not getting along with their peers, lonely, pre-COVID, and kids are struggling with it even more now, lacking the connection with classmates or the teacher, or they won't tell you what's going on. And that's really difficult. Or like I said, the parent last week, my child's just mean to their sibling. Like, what do I do? And what's one word or phrase that you would use to describe how that leaves you feeling? I believe children are mirrors of us. And one of the later steps we'll look at is if we can take a minute to find our place of calm, they will eventually mirror us. Like when I learned that, I was like, okay, that's incredible to think about. So here's a few that I witness, see, experience. Like, there you go. Number one, just like you said, frustrated, discouraged, disconnected, embarrassed, worried, sad, disappointed, concerned. So my goal today is just to teach, parents information that, working with your child when they have the challenging moment, home, school, wherever, academically, behavior, socially, whatever it is. But first we have to get through some myths in our head, because there's beliefs we have, and there's things holding us back from changing our mindset because of things that we think that kind of get us stuck. So one of them I was thinking was, we might say to ourselves, oh my gosh, I just don't have the patience. I don't have the patience for my kid. I don't have the patience for this. Like, I just can't handle this. I can't do it. But really, like you said, and you actually noticed it and you were aware of it. Like, if we can get to that place of calm and not frustration, you actually will be able to be patient with them. And there's a couple pieces to this process that help us get to the place where we can be patient. So like when a kid used to flip out in school, and we used to like try to remove them right away or talk to them, or like we would kind of solve the emergency in the moment, and it always blew up in our face. And what we realized over time was we just had to actually just stop and give that child their space. And we would still, monitor them, keep them in our eyesight range, in our peripheral, but we just had to give them time to de-escalate on their own. And sometimes it was a minute, sometimes it was 5 minutes, sometimes it might be an hour, but that was a huge point for us to just realize we had to just disengage, where so many times we just automatically react. And when you disengage, you actually create that opportunity for an avenue of patience actually to come through. Another myth is, my child won't tell me why they did something, and they'll never admit to it. And so it's hard, with kids, even in school, sometimes we hear things that happen and they won't admit to it. And then their parent, doesn't really know exactly what happened. And that can be really frustrating and difficult as well. We had a kid who, I forget how they figured out he peed on the wall in the bathroom. I forget how they figured out, like, it was him. And I had to talk to him and be like, try to figure out and have him admit it was him. Like, we believed or thought it was, but I think we had to have a kid own it, really. And I used this process with him, and I couldn't believe it. The kid actually told me that he peed on the wall, right? When I called his mom, she's like, he would never do that. Da, 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 da. And I was like, Sam, whatever his name was, I need you to talk to your mom on the phone, tell her, what happened. And he told her, and she was like, I don't believe this. Like, it was kind of hysterical. Like, I was laughing inside, but I was like, yes, thank you. Like, cause when they don't admit it, the parents just like, yeah, right. That's so not my kid. And I'm like, I know this is like totally crazy. So is there a myth that you feel like you relate to, or is there something else that you think that you're like, oh man, like, that's great. All, but this, it's good to recognize something that we think that might keep us from actually changing. It all just comes down to changing our mindset. So if you taught me all the steps to learn this, yeah, right, Karn, like, I would just forget them. And like anything, it takes practice, but practice over time. Like, it didn't always work for me the first time I would use this, or the second or third time, but I so believed in it. And like I said earlier, like, it just synced with like who I believed and believed about kids, that I was like, I just worked at it long enough to find the successes in it. And then over time, you're like, you can just walk right in and sit in there and do this with them. So what I most of the times we experience, like, the kid acts up, they're either having a tantrum or meltdown, or you get the dreaded call from school, right? God forbid, everyone hates those. Every time I call a parent, I'm like, no emergency. Cause they're all like, oh my God, what happened? The school's calling me. Right. And, but it's just like we were talking about earlier, like, you can't deal with the issue in the moment when you're totally freaked out or the kid is. And so that's like the first point of this entire process, is just like, you have to take a deep breath, take your calm. And I like to use a phrase I learned over time, where I say to the kid, like, or describe the kid, depends on the situation. Like when you're calm and in control of your body, then we'll talk about this. And then a lot of times I'll just set a timer and just set it there, and they just do their thing or they cry or whatever. It gives you time to just take a breath and like get yourself calm, because when you're, I call it the freaked out state, like the kids can't think normally. They probably wouldn't even be able to tell you their name, like the simplest things. But yet how many times it's in that moment that we're dealing with the behavior. You shouldn't have, and I didn't teach you that. Like, how come you did that to your teacher, your friend, and none of that is teaching them anything. Actually, it's creating a rift in our relationship with them, where we want that connection with them, but it's creating a divide, and it really, they can't even learn. And that's our goal. We want them to learn from this so they can like get on with life and be successful and have successful relationships with peers and yourself and behave expectedly in those social situations. So that's like the biggest thing that takes time, but had to learn. Don't talk and address your kid in that situation. Like, for example, we hear that the kid did something in the classroom, and the teacher's so upset and they just send him to the office and da 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 da. I won't talk to that kid if they're crying, like emotionally upset. They're gonna sit, and I let them sit, and there's nothing wrong with that till they're calm. Like, I just love that phrase. I love it ever since I learned it. When you're calm and in control of your body, okay, looks like you're ready to talk. It might be a minute out. It might be an hour out. Sometimes it's best to do like 2 hours out. Sometimes they're so emotionally upset that it takes them time to come down from that to where then you can actually talk it through with them. And then here's a picture that I love, because, they knew better. How could they, right? All those phrases, like, or they meant to, or they did it on purpose. And I just sit there and think in the side of my head, I'm like, no, that kid actually wants to do well. And if he could, he would. And now we just have to figure out, what's at the root of it. So let them calm down, let them come to that place of just that, when they're not freaked out or they're not anxious or they're not like still upset. And then it's because sometimes kids get sent to the office after recess, and at school we have lunch after recess, and the teacher will think that kid's going to be like sitting in there and not go to lunch or anything. And they're always surprised, and they don't always like this. And I'm like, yeah, he's going to go to lunch. Like, I always say behind closed doors, I'm like, even people in prison get to eat their lunch. Like, the kid gets to eat and then we'll talk about it. Like, they need that time to decompress too. And they're not going to talk to me in that moment anyway. So you might as well, have your lunch, and we'll talk about it in a minute. So here's two like starter sentences that are like magic. Either maybe you heard from something from school or from the teacher that, your child did something. So when they're calm and in control of their body, which sometimes by the time they come home from school, they're pretty much, they may be, or it'll blow up again at that point. But when they're calm, give it that minute, that 30 minutes, whatever it takes, it's okay. Just don't forget about it, but do it when they're calm and when you're calm, and use the starter sentence with, I heard you, sat on, whatever, you kicked the kid at recess and you didn't listen to the teacher. And then, but you have to use that very even keeled tone voice. And you can only have that tone of voice when you're calm, right? And when you're at a place of like, you're not like freaked out and like, frustrated, or like the heat's rising, your palms are sweaty, your heart's racing. Like, those are our signals. Like, we can't deal with this when we're experiencing all of that. So when you're in a good space, or if it's something you saw at home, you would say, I noticed you were like really mean to your brother, like after dinner. And then here's the magic phrase, and they're going to put it on my shirt, I swear, when I retire. It's, what's up with that? And it's a very open-ended question, but this is the secret that I had from the beginning that I want to share with you. It's empathy that opens the door to connecting with your kid. So, and this is what gets them to talk. If we use the tone of voice that we're talking down at them or we're mad at them, completely shuts them down. You and I have seen that, like, totally. But they don't know what to do when we talk to them in that elevator tone of voice, because they're so used to adults getting upset at them and frustrated at them and feeling that emotion that we're upset. So the key is to really just have that elevator tone of voice. I noticed or I heard, you start with those 2-star sentences, whichever one is right for your situation. What's up with that? And then you just wait and you wait and you wait some more, because kids don't know, they don't even know how to react to this because no one's ever treated them like this. But the key is to just wait and have them share something, whatever it is. And we're not going to be judgmental of anything they say. 9 times out of 10, the kids say, oh, I don't know. And this is what I say when they say that. If you did know, what would you say? And again, no sarcasm in my voice, just like like you're talking to someone on the elevator. If you did know, what would you say? And they usually say, I don't know. And I say it again. And we just sort of like stare at each other, or, they're thinking. And sometimes I'll add, there's no right or wrong answer. Just what's up with that? And then I'll go back to what's up with that. And you're giving them that space that's non-judgmental. And they actually eventually, I know it's that impregnable pause that we all hate, but give it to them, because eventually they'll come out with something. And sometimes they come out with the most cockamamie ideas. Like there was a kid once who like was up and running around during center time, and the teacher was so frustrated, tried everything, and like she was at a loss. And when I did this process with the kid, you know what he said to me? He's like, it's too noisy in the room and I can't work. You can't work. You're the one making everyone else not to work, right? Not that I said that to him, but whatever they say, that they're sharing you, the next point, they're sharing you their concern. That's what's going to come out at that point. But we can't be judgmental. And as crazy as it might sound, and 9 times out of 10, I'm telling you, my teachers are like, well, that's not true. And I'm like, you got to keep that inside you. Like, you can't think that. You got to really like try this for me. And you let them share their concern, but it's not just their concern on the table. Now you have to share your concern. So I would say to that kid, like, and that's the empathy piece. You validate their feeling, even if you don't even like believe it, you just go with it. And you say to him, wow, that must be really difficult for you. Even if that's the only line you ever learned to say back, it helps them say, oh, wow, like they kind of get it. That's huge for this part of the process. And then you give your concern. Well, I give the teacher's concern, but you would give it as a parent, like, well, your teacher's concerned that, she's really trying to work with these kids and she's really having a hard time hearing. Like, so, and then you go into either it's a skill, maybe they need to be taught how to navigate in the classroom properly. Maybe it's that skill, or it's the problem to be solved. Maybe it's just, and for him, I was like, well, and that's what you ask them. If it's a problem to be solved, you say like, well, what do you think we could do to solve that problem? And then you're silent. And it's so hard for us because we always are like, you should do this, that, and the other, but you just ask them that question. And usually they don't know what to do because they're not used to problem solving like this, but this is the skill that they're going to learn over time, which is powerful for what we want them to be as adults, problem solvers. But you just let give them space, let them just listen to them, even if they don't say anything and it feels really awkward. You just keep going with it. And then you ask them again, like, what do you think we could do to solve this problem? And they'll be like, I don't know. Okay, maybe just like one thing maybe we could do differently. And the goal here is to really get them to come up with a solution. Ideally, they want us to come up with 3. I always found it so hard to come up with 3. It was like, we got maybe one, like a stretch for 2 if we could. And then between those 3, you pick one you'll try first. And then if you have success with it, awesome. So the next thing happens and you do this whole process again. But if that solution didn't work, it might not, because we're just trying things. Like we might not know for sure. Then we come back to the table and we're like, oh, that was a great idea, but did that really work out for us? I don't know. Let's see, what other, solution could we come up with? How else could we solve this problem? And then you come up with something else, and then you keep trying until you find what intervention or what solution really creates that success for you. So, it is just so incredible. So like I had this one kid, oh my gosh, he would steal things in kindergarten from an art teacher. And I did this process with him, and I forget what he said. I don't know. He just wanted things. Like he was the youngest in his family. Going on to first grade, he didn't have a better year either. Second grade, like he was just always like in trouble. third grade, he like ruined one of the teacher's carpets with like charcoal just because he really had no reason for it. But through the problem solving, he on his own came up with the fact that he was going to write an apology note and give it to the teacher. Like you just, and I never treated, them punitively. I never talked down to them. I don't yell at them. It's a very positive approach, but this is how they learn from that. Actually, their mind is open to learning because they're not being yelled at, and that which makes their self-esteem fall. And then they're like, oh, I'm so bad. And you can't learn anything from that in that environment psychologically. And so in fourth grade, he, oh my gosh, I had parents calling not to put him in the same class with him because he was doing stuff in the neighborhoods that was just like silly, stupid stuff that a boy would do. Like this kid just couldn't like just act expectedly, right? Behave expectedly. Well, in fifth grade, I found out he was into technology. So I taught him how to set up the morning announcements, turn on the computer, and make sure the announcements I was doing okay when I would go live, and then he would shut it all down. One simple little thing in the morning that he would do when he came into school, his whole demeanor changed. Like all of a sudden he's like standing up taller. He looks more like open, like fresh, clean, like bright eyes, like a marked, like physical difference. I think sometimes we have expectations that the kids should be robots and they should just like do everything perfect. But they're not. And they only learn because of the mistakes, but it is embarrassing for us because we're the parents that have to deal with, oh my God, I can't believe my kid did that. Well, then I taught him how to set up the assemblies for the technology for like the LCD projector. And I was out one day and they had an assembly and the whole school was waiting on him. He was like the only one who knew how to set it up. And the teachers were like, he did such a great job. But you find their strength and you use this process, and the kids can like, I've just seen them do like a 180, like just, I am so excited about this. And the most beautiful thing I love about this process is it's really, you connect with the kids. I wish I had, like, people in my life had done that when I was a kid, which might be
Right.
why I'm so drawn to this, because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't treated like that. And I was a bad kid. I lied, I stole, I cheated things. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
like a really bad kid in elementary school. But and I think that's why this so speaks to my heart, because I know what that feels like. And I don't want kids to feel that way. Like, yeah, I always say to them, you did something wrong. The action you did was wrong. You're not bad. What you said or did was unexpected, that hurt, etc. That's a really, I make a clear distinction, because as a kid, I felt like I was bad because of what I did. And that's just painful. It hurts. I don't think it's the way we need to teach them. So what you could do with him there is, I mean, it's definitely outside that emotional moment of it. Well, don't talk about it around the Wednesday or whatever, but like maybe a Monday, or like, yeah, maybe like a Monday or whatever, when he's calm, just say to him like that, hey, I noticed on Wednesdays it's really hard for you to get started in doing your work. What's up with that? Even if you think you know what it is, ask him, what's up with that? Like, be curious, pretend like you don't know, be totally open-minded, and see what he offers to you. Or maybe he's already offered that to you, or maybe whatever it is that's more specific. Um, just say, I noticed, and then just describe what you notice. What's up with that? Like, maybe just pick one thing, and then see if you can't get him to like tell you what's really going on. And then you'll know his concern, and then you can share your concern that, asynchronous work is work that has to be handed in, it's graded. You can throw my name in there, like Dr. J. She was just talking to me recently, like this is important, we got to get this done. What can we do to solve that problem that you just said, of whatever it is that he says? Or maybe it's a skill he has to be taught. Maybe he needs to learn something organizationally that'll help him
Mm-hmm.
organize his day. So it could be the skill, something to be taught, or problem solve. What do you think we could do to solve that problem? And see if he can't come up with something he's going to try that will be different. Like maybe for him, it's just also boring. And sometimes when kids say boring, I'm like, oh my God, there's boring moments for all of us. Even I have boring moments in my day. I know, but we just got to go through them. And there's always something that you look forward to. And sometimes kids just need that preferred activity, non-preferred activity. So if their day was structured with, if you do 10 minutes of your work, I'll give you 5 minutes of your fun time. do 10 minutes of your, or 20 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. Like if you switch it up, sometimes that'll help them get through the day of like, otherwise they think, oh my God, it's Wednesday, I have to do all this work and it's going to take more hours and I'm never going to have any fun. Right. Or what's something you want to do at the end of the day because you worked so hard and you did your job today. And then maybe it's something he can choose as a reward that he gets to look forward to, because we do that to ourselves naturally, actually. So he see what he gives you and then see if he can solve the problem. And if it's something you're okay with, because that's the big thing, whatever the solution is, you have to be okay with it. Like it might be crazy, but if you're okay with it and he's saying it, just go with it and let him try it. Because as he fails and then finds another solution, that's how he's going to learn. But kids today are told everything they're supposed to do that they don't even think on their own, and forget learning to know how to problem solve. Like that's just like way too high of a skill. But see how powerful this skill is of this process when you use it with them, of all the things it's really teaching them. And then it's just huge. I just love it. That I created what I call a Mom Power membership, where I put together like a monthly training where we can just get together on a Zoom and talk through like exactly the situation you just shared. And then we talk through like what you would say, how you would say it. To the point where I'm even open to, going on a call with a child and their parents. So the parent could watch me do this process with them, because that's how I learned, by watching it. And it really helped me understand it more. It's one thing to like hear about it, but to really see in action is like, oh, that's what it means. Yeah, I put that together, for parents, that just to help. I just want to serve and really help parents, because I really think that this could be like a game changer for some of them at some moments in their life. And it's not, all moments of their life or all years of their life that they're going through things, but gosh, you wake up and it's like, oh my God, what the heck did my kid do at school today? Like, who is that? Right. I've just had such a heart for so many years, and I've done it in the building. I've seen it just dramatically change the trajectory of kid, like literally, like that is so incredibly powerful. And yeah, I just can't like let that go. That kid really wants to do well. And I'm not going to hold it against you that you just did that thing that was really not so great. Like that's huge. Yeah. Everyday fresh. That is incredibly powerful and impacting. Like it's what we would want people to do and treat for even us ourselves. If I can help one parent, it just is like supercharges me, and I'm so excited, and the kids are worth it and they deserve it. I really do believe they just deserve this from us.